Well, hello there.
Well, hello where?
Hello to all of you in TV land.
Not TV land.
I mean internet land.
No, none of that.
None of that.
No.
Well, this is Guild Wars 2. And, I'd like to start our new video series, An Idiot Abroad. Where I play Guild Wars, and Tally points out how I'm terrible at it, because, I mean, look at those wings. That's the mark of someone who has played this game a long time.
My PvP wing.
So,
Your poop wings?
Yes.
So Guild Wars 2's been out for a while, and they just released their second expansion, Path of Fire. And I have leveled a character to get right to it, and we're here at the very beginning, so we're just going to roll around a bit. I'm going to be playing a Berserker Warrior, which is the cool spec they added to the last expansion. And Tally is, what do they call your new elite spec?
It's the Mirage.
Yeah, so the Mirage Mesmer. So we're gonna roll through some story stuff, and Tally will probably tell me everything I don't know about this game in the process. So
As it should be.
As it should be. That's convenient. I'm gonna go to this blue point, or heck, where is it? Oh, I know what it is. I'm not following the right story chain. Allow me to fix that. Here we go. I need to go right here.
Not there. There.
And there's physics on the mounts.
Sorry for the gate earlier.
So by the way, just the name of the stream is It's Easy to Trace the Track of Arteria.
Nice.
Can only take so many before bursting.
That's just for you.
I take it you're here
Smooches.
for Balthazar. I am. I'm looking for a place to start. Any information you have would be helpful.
Victory or death.
So the interesting thing about the way the story is being presented right now is in the core game, which I just busted through on this character, everything is kind of in these static side-by-side. There's like a painted background and your two characters are talking at one another, and the presentation has changed so that everything is in-world, so far at least.
I see.
How do you feel about getting a little lower than ground level?
And how does that make you feel?
I think it's really nice.
Smugglers, the Homicide. Name a case.
I think it's really nice too.
Well, it just makes you feel a little bit more in, connection to the world, because there's a lot of NPCs roaming around. You'll be doing
You'll find them at the casino.
You'll be doing a big fight with, dozens of NPCs flying around, and then you'll get in a discussion, and it's two talking heads. So that's better.
Ah, yes, my favorite CBS sitcom.
Yeah. So I need to go talk to some people.
So let's
Where to start?
Yeah, all right. So, hey, I just wrapped up playing Guild Wars 6 months ago because I thought, why not? And I hear there's this game, Guild Wars 2, that's a sequel of sorts. Is it?
Kind of. I mean, Guild Wars 1 was basically a PvP game.
What do you want?
And the setting.
So Tally, as someone who's played this for so long, what would you say is key to Guild Wars 2?
Yeah?
Well, Guild Wars 2 was a lot more like an MMO than Guild Wars 1 was.
Okay.
I think the appeal to both games that they share is, you can always put them down and come back to them. They're really easy to jump back into. They're all about, combining different skills to get different effects.
He's usually in his office in the casino, but he's a very busy man.
Yeah.
Is there any, anyone who's just kind of... So, multi-part question. Basically, it's this. Anyone who's interested in, hey, this kind of looks like fun. Guild Wars 2 is free to play now, correct?
It is. The core
Okay.
game is completely free, and you can get up to max level and everything. You won't really be missing out on too much except the added profession, which is the Revenant,
Okay.
until you get
And
to 80 at least.
as a free-to-play game, is there any of the here's some boosters to make you level up faster, or here's some stuff so you get more money that you actually need in order to do stuff in game?
Yeah, there are XP scrolls and stuff that you can get, but you can also get them in game, through like
Okay.
daily rewards or seasonal events. So I'd say anything that has any gameplay effect that's drawn at all, you can get in game.
Okay.
And then you can also buy them in the store. Most of the stuff that is just in the store is purely cosmetic.
Yeah, there's a lot of cosmetic stuff and things like additional character slots or extra backspace, things like that.
Okay. Yeah, they always get you on that extra bag space. All right, so someone who's like, hey, this looks kind of fun and interesting and want to pick it up and play with some friends, free to play isn't something exactly that would be too discouraging as far as we're gonna have to sit here and like grind for 21 years in order to actually get to a point where we can play the real end game or whatever.
The thing about Guild Wars is there isn't really an end game in a traditional sense, at least as far as I'm concerned. There are things like there's like raids and things that you might expect, but there's also a lot of there's a big PvP focus. There's a lot of people craft, but once you hit max level, the max level hasn't changed since the game launched, but there's been 2 expansions.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and instead they've added in this thing called mastery points, which are kind of like they are kind of like levels, but you don't get new skills for your profession. So the new mounts that they added in this expansion unlock through mastery levels, basically.
That artwork made me think for a second we had transported into a Quest for Glory game. So then not too bad, easy to pick up and play. Why then would you want to get the expansion in particular? And you said there's another one other than Path of Fire.
So the new expansions add like basically new continents of a sort. So lots of new places to go, lots of more story. New bosses. The raid that Mike mentioned, that's a Heart of Thorns, the first expansion exclusive. But probably what makes me most excited about the new expansions is the Elite Specialization, which are basically a different way you can build your character, but you have to be level 80 to unlock them.
Right.
Okay.
So once the cutscene ends, I'll just pull it up now. So you have...
So each elite specialization, like I said, you have to be level 80 to start unlocking them. They all add a brand new weapon for each profession that you need to have that elite specialization equipped to use. And they add a whole new set of healing skills and utility skills and elites per profession. And they're all tied together in a way that kind of supports a kit.
In kit, like, as in the idea of classes and DPS, tank, stuff like that?
More specific than that. So, for example, the new thief specialization is called Deadeye, and it gives them a sniper rifle, basically. And their whole new kit is based around that sniper rifle, more or less. So different skills that would support that kind of play style. Whereas before, the thief was more about, getting in people's faces and stabbing them.
So, if I'm understanding correctly, specializations and skills based around particular weapons?
Yeah.
Is this secretly
particular
a monster
weapons or like play styles, So Another example is the new Necromancer Elite Specialization, which is called the Scourge or something like that. It basically adds a way for Necromancers to be a heavy support class, which hasn't really been available to them.
Okay, so it isn't like, hey, you got a crossbow now, and here's a bunch of skills so you can use this crossbow, and hey, you got a pole arm, and here's a bunch of skills to use a pole arm, which, I mean, you know, fair play, but like, that kind of thing is very much like, when you said that, I was like, that's like Monster Hunter, like, that's all what those games are, is pick a weapon and then build your thing around the weapon. Alright, so it's not like that, that's good, but there's some...
Yeah, so what Guild Wars 2 does is you basically have two halves of your skill bar. You have your weapon half of your skill bar, which is skills 1 through 5, and then you have kind of like a utility side of your skill bar, which is 6 through 0. And your weapons are completely divorced from your utility skills. So you don't have to use a particular weapon to use any of the utility skills.
Okay.
But with these new elite specializations, they might have, you know, certain passives or a certain way of playing that might encourage you to use a certain weapon.
Okay.
But you don't have to, for sure. So
Right.
I'm playing a Mirage right now, which is the new Mesmer Elite specialization. But I'm still using my old weapon.
Whatever else you've got going on.
Because I heard you talking about before, it's some epic grind thing that you got never again, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's part of it. It's also how I build. So I have a bunch of gear that focuses on direct damage, whereas the new axe weapon focuses more on dots. So in order to utilize that to its maximal effectiveness, I would need to change gear.
So then, from a co-op perspective, I mean, it's not outside from the raid. Are there? And I mean, you know, I'm watching you and Mike go through this little battle here. But are there like the equivalents of dungeons, like in WoW? Or
There are dungeons and things called
strikes,
Fractals of the Mist as well. That are the dungeons in this game are definitely not the focus. Like, there's been 2 expansions, and there are like 8 dungeons total.
Yeah.
And most of them are in the core game.
Yeah, I think they're all in the core game.
Yeah, and people do them for things like completion and certain achievements and stuff, but it's not really what you're here for. The big bit about Guild Wars that you might see, I'm pulling up my map, so you'll see it in a second. There'll be like giant orange marks on your map, and those are all public events. And public events, they also appear on the right side of the screen, and they'll be like, oh, there's an enemy force marshaling in this area, let's go group up and head them off. So everybody in the world, or your server instance, will be able to go participate in that, and everyone gets rewards. And the combo abilities, I think Tally talked about a little bit, some of your abilities actually drop like a field on the ground. They'll be called combo fields. And when you're in a...
Yeah, I can drop Time Warp.
Yeah, so if I use certain abilities while I'm inside of a combo field, you'll actually see this little heart appear, and that when you use an ability that's called a combo finisher, it'll say, oh, so I have an ability where I can throw my greatsword called Blade Trail, and if I throw it through a combo field, it causes the projectile to get buffed by whatever it passes through. So if I throw it through an elementalist fire field, it gets lit on fire and causes fire damage to the enemy. Or if I use this whirl through a combo field, it might throw stuff in every direction depending on what I go through. So even if you're not in the same group as another player, you can affect their combo fields. So the bulk of this game is kind of adventuring in the world, and there's the story to complete as well. But you can pretty much just roam, and they like to stress that that's something they want you to do. You'll see as I move around and see new areas, I'll get experience just for unlocking waypoints, and there's a stat in the world. It won't show in this zone, but it's called world completion for the original game, and you kind of want to try and get 100% of that.
Okay, so completely unrelated, but I am going to get back to that in a second. Why is there a little lady following one of you around?
That's my pet.
Okay.
I can change it if you are.
No, I mean, like, that raises
uncomfortable.
so many more questions why you have a little lady as a pet, but we're just gonna skip right past all of that. Like, let's just go right past all that and go back to... So for co-op purposes, like, getting back to some of the classes and everything, is there a feeling like, okay, you want to have...
There is no
like,
Holy Trinity, if that's what you're about to ask.
well, I mean, but even not okay. Holy Trinity, yes, but also any sort of balance to this. Like, it's good to have, you know, people that are support versus tanks versus DPS. Like, just as a party, or if everyone's DPS, it's totally fine to roll into any of these things.
When you do something like a dungeon or a fractal, you actually want the party to... For instance, you want to always be able to put 25 stacks of might and or was it, is it might or is it rage, and like 25 stacks of vulnerability on all your targets. So if, like, right now my character is kind of built for dropping vulnerability on targets, so if there was another warrior, we could agree to change our build on the fly to make it so that they might be more of a condition damage, which are like dots, build to complement the vulnerabilities I'm putting down. And you can just click on your hotbar whenever you're out of combat and swap what abilities you're carrying. So it's not like, oops, I wandered into a party and we're wearing the same clothes. Well, we can't both do this. So you can go into your build, and there's several trees that you can choose from. So you can pick 3 when you're max level. They're basically 3 specialization trees, and you can alter your kind of talents within each one and tailor them to the encounter. And generally, you kind of can't really pick a build and stick with it. If you really want to be effective, a person who is at least a mindful player will offer to change up their abilities based on the encounter at hand. But right now mine's kind of set up for soloing and, running around the world and doing story stuff. But if I were PvPing, I might take an entirely different loadout.
Does it feel like there's more PvP than there is PvE?
Not at all.
Okay.
No, the first game was like the very first Guild Wars was a PvP game that you could go adventure in, but you really didn't play it for that. This one's much more balanced in regard to that.
With tales of your adventures.
But this is a PvE game, I would say, with strong PvP.
The counselor must have misunderstood my part of the story.
What else have you noticed, Tally, as far as like some of the new things that the Path of Fire expansion brings that you like?
This time, I'm not after a dragon.
Well, we touched a little bit on Mount.
Do you have any information on his whereabouts?
They seem like a pretty neat idea. So, like, the first expansion introduced gliding, which opened a lot of cool possibilities, especially when they introduced it into the main continent as well. And so, kind of going along with that positive reception, ArenaNet introduced mounts in the second expansion. So I think there's something like 4 or 5 that you'll be able to unlock. Mike and I have unlocked the Raptor, which you unlock very early in the expansion. And the Raptor, in addition
Immortan
to letting you
Crescents
run
may
around
no longer be
faster,
the honorable sun spheres they
also
once were,
lets you
but
jump
they would make powerful allies.
far distances, so you can
And in a
leap
time like
across,
this,
you know,
we
chasms.
need all the help we can get.
You people have history books.
And then
Open any one
there's
of
like
them
a
and it'll tell
rabbit
you
type mount
short-term
that lets
gains
you
with
jump
long-term
really high up in the
trouble.
air. So
The Chief
going along
Counselor
with
has
what
the
Mike
right
was
idea.
talking about
We should
with
be grateful that
exploration,
Immortan
it's kind of
Crescents are
new
even
ways to
considering
explore
helping
the
us.
game.
We should fly
Because you
Joko's
can
standard
bring these
and
mounts
make it
back
clear
into
that
other
we
parts
welcome
of
his kingdom's
the world
support.
besides just the new
lapdog.
areas.
Oh, okay, so it's not like restricted to just this new continent.
Right.
That's pretty exciting. Well, so okay, so we saw a little bit of the battle earlier. Why don't you guys show off something like let's go hit up a public event. Is there a public event happening somewhere nearby? To
Well, I am in a cutscene at the moment, but once I'm out of it, we can go hunt for one.
okay, yeah, let's show off a public event.
Round and round
See what that
it
looks
goes.
like.
I'd welcome any counsel you might have,
Yeah, I mean,
Commander.
Mike, you were telling I know in our staff chat you were telling me about some of this and everything, but it's also one of those things like I'm so hesitant about any sort of MMO these days for the feeling that's time sinking into it and
Mhm.
Let's
the
actually
requirements.
see if we can pop out of here. Or am I... Oh, I'm locked in to the cutscene I wasn't paying attention to.
Cormier was a local hero, even before she fought a fallen god and took his power.
and I mean, does this feel? I mean, you said this is kind of a little bit at the beginning, but does it feel like this is a far more casual sort of experience with all of that? As far as
I think it's very casual friendly because every if you go on the forums for any game, you will see a bunch of people saying, "Well, this is the optimal build you need to take. This is, you know, there's an actual site called Meta Battle for this game where you can look at what the PvP meta is, so you know what build to take in to hard counter the other popular builds, for instance. But you can kind of just do what feels good. You'll definitely want to explore like the synergy between the abilities you choose to take, but you know, because this game has no real dedicated healer or dedicated tank, like when you're in a big encounter, it essentially is whoever has the highest toughness out of everybody is the de facto tank. And in our party makeup, it could actually be Tally, would actually be the one drawing the aggro, based on that.
These people should just look out for themselves.
But it is real interesting. It's very different, especially considering I play mostly Holy Trinity games. This one is, it feels so different.
But what happens after the Forged are defeated? Every decision you make has a cost.
and what? So is that a large part of what brought you kind of back into it? Was checking out the like. I mean, because you sort of were looking into this prior to the expansion coming out in the past couple of weeks. What sort of drew you back into it?
Thank you for your input, Commander. I tend to agree.
I choose the path of Switzerland.
And Noon will face the forge with gates open.
Okay. What keeps you coming back to it, Tally?
Call the town crier. This has to be a first.
Sorry, I was distracted by something.
At least the sun
So,
spears are
Guild
still
Wars
alive.
1
I'm
was...
very distracted by this now dragon. Like I miss Mike's slave lady almost because the swirling dragon is just too much for me to handle.
Commander.
Here, I'll make a little fireman for you
So,
instead.
Guild Wars 1 was one of my favorite games ever. I played so much of it. I mostly liked the PvP, but I did a lot of the PvE as well. And I just loved creating builds and messing around with that and creating synergies and, you know, playing with my friends. And so I had a lot of really, really high hopes for Guild Wars 2. And, you know, it lived up to some of my expectations and didn't in others. But it's kind of like the best thing I have to Guild Wars 1.
I couldn't get a clear signal.
Because Guild Wars 1 is
Guess I should try it
obviously not getting any more content.
again. Big news
Sure.
to share.
And yeah, I mean that's why I keep playing. You know, it's just kind of that love of Guild Wars 1, as well as some cool things going on in Guild Wars 2. The combat system's pretty fun. There are pros and cons to how Guild Wars 2 has gone away from having as much support systems in the game. It makes people a lot more independent of each other, but that's not always a good thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my friends and I often joke about how Guild Wars 2, when you do a dungeon or difficult content, it's just 5 people in a room flailing around together at a boss. They aren't working together, they just happen to be there.
Yeah.
Because that's how it feels like sometimes. Everyone's supposed to be more or less self-sustainable. Like that's what the game really wants you to do.
Yeah.
You want to output as much damage as possible, but also be survivable enough to not, just go down all the time and drag down your team. And so it's nice from a certain perspective, because you can go and solo stuff. You don't have to be that healer class that can't do anything on their own.
I think, that problems like that aren't actually unique to even a game like Guild Wars. Like, my main MMO is Final Fantasy XIV, and that's more of a Holy Trinity game, but the meta for that game, when you're doing dungeons and stuff, is literally have the tank pull the entire dungeon and everyone stands in one spot and AoEs it. So even though you have healers and tanks
not much has changed then.
and DPS in that game, where you're a little more dependent on everybody else, it still ends up playing out the same way in all but the most challenging of content. So I will agree it's different here, but let's see if we can find where is a good series public event. Tally.
I think probably if we just wander out of town to the east, we'll probably come across some stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lead on.
Because that seems like how it was in the preview weekend.
Council is really stepping up recruitment for the City Watch. Sounds like
Yeah, we should definitely leave this town. Done with this place.
Don't, yeah.
Free city of the moon. Yeah, that's right.
If you're tired of cities, allow me to take you to Lion's Arch.
What's Lion's Arch?
Oh, it's the main city in this game.
Is that the home of your people? The
No, I hail from the Black Citadel. Basically a
cool.
steampunk Death Star.
Okay, that's now. Why are we not a steampunk Death Star?
Because.
Because your Dragon Mount just scratched itself behind the ear like a cat.
Alright, so someone here started this event.
Perfect.
Will he be providing us with hazard pay? This quarry is crawling with
This
choice.
engineered Norn chap.
I'll protect you.
Let's get to work and count ourselves fortunate that Balthazar's Forge don't seem to need stone for their war effort.
I'm just waiting for everything to catch up here so I can see, because I'm still watching Mike
So,
mess around on the map.
fun fact, my 2 cats are named after Guild Wars characters.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Alright. What are the names?
My cats are named Naku and Sidra, and there's actually, in this expansion, a couple of areas named after Sidra.
How interesting.
Yeah.
So from the original Guild Wars, right?
Yes.
Man, it's been so long. See, I remember playing Guild Wars when it came out, and I think I played as a monk character, if that was a class. And then I remember...
Yeah, only the best class.
Okay, word, good. Because I remember, like, that also got Necromancers, right, in Guild Wars? There was an expansion that did that?
They were in the base game.
Okay. I thought, because I remember some expansion for it that had, like, Necromancer looking or something on the front of it.
Factions added assassins.
Assassin.
Nightfall added dervishes and paragons. Oh, and factions also added ritualists, which Arena Net highly regretted.
Ritualist, that's, yeah, okay.
Which
Yeah,
was actually my first character, because I started with faction.
I remember Ritualists. Alright. There's a bunch of people running around. They all got shields, so you gotta defend all these people.
Yeah,
Yes.
pretty much.
Well, we at least need to defend one of them to finish collecting this town.
So do you get, like, are there any sort of, like you mentioned earlier, people get rewards? Are there rewards based at all on how well you complete the event?
Yeah.
It's more like, a lot of them, it's more like completing them, and then the more you contributed. So if you contributed like a decent amount, you'll usually get the max reward. So I don't know if you guys played Warhammer Online. They had a similar public quest situation.
Oh,
And
well, you're just gonna make me sad remembering that game.
and the reward system for that was fucking awful. Like, I played a healer, and it was like, oh, you were there doing all the heals? Well, you get shit for rewards.
Yeah.
But Guild Wars is a whole lot better with that. Like, it'll count things like healing friends and buffing friends. And as long as you're, you know, putting in a decent effort, you'll get rewarded.
Look, I
as much
don't
as
want.
anyone else.
I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but since you brought it up, why can't we have a nice Warhammer game? I mean,
It's called Total War.
I mean, don't get me. Yeah, okay, don't get me wrong. I really like Total War Warhammer, which again, why it's not just called Total Warhammer, Total Missed Opportunity or whatever. But I really like that for being a tactical game that recreates the feeling of putting your pieces on a board and measuring out distances with your measuring tape and yelling at your friend because, you know, oh, you set up your units like this and really it's supposed to be like this, and yeah, you get that whole thing. But I always love, and it's one of the things I love, you know, when we talked about it in the Inquisitor Martyr stream, like I kind of love games that are not that, like, at the same time, and I really want good games that are not just a tactics thing. And I had such high hopes for Warhammer Online.
Yeah, we all did.
Especially since we lived in the town it was made in.
Yeah.
I mean, even Mark Jacobs admits he fucked up on that one. Dropped the ball on it. And that's why I backed Camelot Unchained, which is never gonna come out.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, back to this. It looks like y'all are doing pretty well in this event so far. Although, how many
We're
people are
crushing
still?
it.
How many alive?
There's
6?
of them.
6
I
of
was
the
like
7.
7 or 8. Yeah, it's fine.
Event succeeded.
Better get the stone back down there. Zalabor
Nice.
wants construction to begin as soon as possible.
I got
Loots.
event rewards. Oh, neat. I don't know what any of those items do because they're all new.
Well, one of them just gives karma, which is a resource in which to buy things.
Right.
And then this unidentified gear, I guess you can salvage it, or
Yeah, you can salvage
Get
it
random
or
gear.
identify it.
yeah.
Okay, well that was a public event.
Nice.
Should we maybe show off like some of the weird exploration stuff that this game has that's maybe not the expansion? Something like a jumping puzzle?
Sure.
I mean, well, it's, you know,
That
you
sounds
kind of
crazy.
wander the world and do these quests as you go, but I kind of
I just have a love-hate relationship with
oh, there,
jumping.
yeah, it is definitely
I've
that.
like pretty much literally done them all because I hunt achievements, but I hate myself for it.
Okay, so how about I go to a zone where I haven't explored it, and we can kind of run around and see what that looks like.
Sounds good. Just let me
Okay.
know where.
I'm hunting.
Are they?
Oh, I'm in combat. Who's fighting me?
Me.
This cactus was attacking us.
That bastard.
So yeah, a lot of the enemies in the expansion are new too. So they aren't just recycling old ones.
Okay, so
that's
go
nice see.
to the Sleek
good.
Fur encampment in the Iron Marches. And we're in combat again!
Iron Marches, okay. Jason wanted steampunk, we'll give him steampunk.
Yay!
Okay, well, are we out
Jason
of combat
demands
yet?
it.
Looks like we're out.
Okay.
Iron Marches. Didn't you say?
Sleek Fur.
Sleek for encampment.
Northwest.
What, northwest.
So let's see. I actually have a hero point to grab here, so that's even cooler.
Yay! Hero points.
Whoop. Let's see.
So hero points are used to unlock specialization.
Yeah.
Tell me more about your hero points.
So I think most of the hero points, the explorable hero points, give you like 10? I don't quite remember.
It's 1 in the base game, 10
Oh,
in
right.
Heart of Thorns.
Yeah.
So you trigger this event, and we're fighting this little boss here. And once we clear it, it'll give me a hero point.
Right. And they have a decent variety. So like some of them are just interacting with a place of power, channel, and you get them. Some of them
So what
might
that,
be like a riddle that you have to solve.
So what that did is that goes back into my, like if I go to my training panel, there's a little number of hero points that you get. And you use that to train through your different trees. And eventually through your elite specializations, once you've basically maximized the other trees and gotten to level 80. According to my friends who play this a lot more than me, there are more hero points in the game than you can actually spend. So
yeah.
you can
when
run
I logged on to my Mesmer, I was able to fully unlock Mirage. So
yeah. So let's head north here. We can go to a zone that I actually haven't been to yet. Or maybe more of this zone.
The one thing, I mean, I'm assuming it's not now, but that I've noticed here and there for loading screens is there's little symbols underneath the area.
Yeah, so those are the different types of waypoints. You'll see
Okay.
on my mini map, I have it's called the Bulwark Waypoint. And so I unlocked that, and now I have 9 of the 14 waypoints in this zone. So there's heart icons, which are like little quest givers that you can make happy by doing stuff. The challenge points, there's vistas, so you'll find like a high point and you can trigger a little cutscene that shows you the area. We're going to a place called Fireheart Rise, which looks a little bit different, but you can see the tanks and stuff. Well, you'll roll through areas like this, and you'll see that my map is... This entire zone is basically locked to me, because I haven't been here. But you
so
can...
basically doing, like, unlocking any of those things that Mike was talking about will give you a chunk of XP. And it's completely optional, you know. Like, if you complete a map, you'll get
a
some
reward
nice
chest,
rewards.
yeah.
Yeah. So you'll often get, like, some good gear. Like, if you get... On the higher level maps, you can even get exotic gear, which is the second best rarity of gear in the game. You can also get keys for completing maps, which are gem store items, so like real money items. But you don't have to 100% it at all. It's completely optional.
And so there's a vista up here, and I don't know how to get to it.
Oh, right, this one.
Get off this mount because they get all squirrely. But usually you'll see like a high point, and you'll say, huh, how do I get up there? And here's a funny machine.
Oh, I think it's the pipe over here.
Oh, okay.
A funny machine, huh? Do you have to follow that funny machine?
No. But
Do you have
so...
to pass some trials? Does the funny machine talk to you?
There's the machine that goes bing.
Ah, I see you brought the machine that goes bing.
Yeah, so you'll see these vistas, and this one was an easy one, but sometimes there's actually a lot of like jumping and traversal to figure out where how to get to it. There are areas in the world that are called jumping puzzles, which are basically like little micro dungeons that are like combinations of platforming and puzzle solving, which are pretty neat, if you ask me.
Is it pretty good platforming?
For the most part.
Platforming is one of those.
No, it's
Thank you.
Horrible.
Yes, I did not.
Do not listen to his lies.
I'm being generous. It's neat. It's a neat idea that I wish they executed a little better, but it is still like cool that they put as much thought into it as they did. Oh,
That is true. I will.
I just found an area where mounts are not allowed.
Oh.
Like, take a couple steps forward. It's because there's stuff in this zone that's dangerous on the ground, I guess. How come you can ride?
It's the wings.
It was weird. It just flat out dismounted me. But you can see as we stroll through this, there's a lot of like events going on that you can join.
So here's a good example. So like waypoints, like Mike was talking about, they can become locked. So there's little swords through the waypoint right now. That means no one can use the waypoint, so they can't teleport in. But if you get rid of the enemies that are causing it to be in combat, then people can travel here. So the events in the world certainly have an effect on the player.
Mm-hmm. And then there's also the living world, which you might be able to speak of.
Yeah, so there's something called the Living Story in Guild Wars 2, and they release things episodically. If you log into the game shortly after it's released, like within the first few weeks or so usually, you can get it for free. Otherwise, you can unlock it in the gem store later on. But these usually add like a new area, as well as more story, more achievement, often some like new cosmetic gear, and mini pets, that kind of thing. So again, they aren't mandatory by any stretch of the word, but they're, more story, more content. And if you're on the ball, you can get them for free.
And it's linked up to some aspect of whatever you've gone through up to that point?
Yeah, so Living Story Season 3 had to do with following up the story for the first expansion. Whereas Living Story Season 1 and 2 followed up the story from the core game. And I imagine they'll do a Living Story Season 4 that will follow up this newest expansion.
I think you all talked about this, but just with the way this stream is catching up, it looks like Mike is kissing this thing, the NPC line on the ground while rubbing the dirt.
All that is...
That's Guild Wars 2.
That's politics.
Yeah, so when anyone gets defeated in combat, like when they die, anyone can come over and res them usually.
Right.
And resing them like takes a long time, even more when you're in combat. So you can't really res people in combat very viably.
Yeah.
But they can also
but you
try
get-
and res themselves in combat.
Right. And you also get XP for helping people up that are down or resing them if they die.
Whoa.
That's nice. Well, that sounds pretty cool. I mean, probably wrap this up here soon, but your kind of wrapping up thoughts on this, Tally?
About which part?
Just the expand. I mean, like, just the expansion, we'll say, just because that's the newest thing here that we're kind of looking at. Like, is this something that is worth picking up if people are interested in checking the game out? Is it worth picking up only if you've already played the game?
So I haven't honestly played that much of the expansion yet. I mean, it just came out on Friday, and I've been catching up on some other.
And you didn't just spend 72 hours straight?
No, not yet.
Yes,
but
is the
from
key
what,
part.
but from what I've seen, it looks really solid. The new specializations, elite specializations, look very well thought out. They look exciting for veteran players. I would say if you're completely new to the game, or you've played a little bit and you want to get back in, it's not worth picking up right from the start. You want to make sure that you're going to get to end game.
And the base game is free to play currently.
Yeah, the base game is completely free to play, and like I said before, they don't gate you really on anything. You don't really have to pay a single dollar to get a good long-term experience out of it. It doesn't take like a super long time to get to max level, but it takes a reasonable investment of time, just like any MMO.
Yeah.
So if you're new to the game, then getting Path of Fire right off the bat, I don't think would be wise, because you won't really be able to do anything with it. But if you have played the base game and you got max level and you've been away for a while and you want to jump back in, and the elite specializations sound cool to you, then I definitely do think it's worth checking out.
And I mean, the nice thing is obviously being free to play. You're free to hop in, play for a bit, say, this really isn't for me, or I want to play more of this, and that's going to be a better gauge too for picking up the Path of Fire expansion.
Right.
Since it sounds like there is enough content and other stuff to it to make it worthwhile to say, I'm having a great time with this, and I want to have a great time with new awesome things.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And I cannot stress enough how nice the mounts are.
Yeah, you can bring the new mounts and the new elite specializations back into any other part of the game too.
Yeah.
So they aren't just tied to the expansion areas.
And then, okay, well, that kind of answers that question. I was about to ask if, like, is it worth it then just to pick up the expansion so you can get the mount right away? But I suppose you can only get the mount once you get into the expansion, which means you need to be level 80.
Yeah, level 80 isn't really... Much like reaching level 20 in Guild Wars 1, reaching level 80 isn't really any kind of achievement in this game. You want to be level 80.
After a couple of years of the core game being out, they went out and rehauled the XP system. It was kind of a slog before.
Yeah.
But now it's much better.
I mean, I did it. I made a character manually, and I went level 1 to level 80 in like a calendar week. Like, it didn't take me, like, it just like played the game at night after work and had a few long weekend stretches, and I was able to get max level.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, so there isn't... You can play this game as much or as little as possible. Like, doing the PvP, like, there's the world versus world, which is kind of the large-scale PvP that you could basically just hop into and play on a whim, or you can get a couple matches of structured in if you want, or you can go say, I'm going to explore half of this new zone today, or I'm going to complete part of the storyline today. And because there's no subscription fee, you can afford to just kind of put it down for as long as you want and come back to it. And yeah,
Yeah, I would say that Guild Wars 2 is probably the best MMO to play if like you don't have a lot of time, like you have kids or a very demanding job and you can only really get in, maybe 15 to 30 minutes at a time. You can get stuff done in Guild Wars 2.
it
And I
is
can't really say that as much about a lot of other MMOs.
it is small goals the game. Like say,
Nice.
because like you log in and you have daily quests, and the daily quest, instead of like in WoW where it would be, go complete 3 sets of this kill 10 quest and go do this doohickey and that doohickey, and that's your set of like 25 dailies that you can do. And this game, it says, here's 3 categories that you can pursue daily quests in, and just go do it. And that's all you have to worry about.
Nice. And Tally, you're working on the review for this?
Yes, I'm planning to do a MMO co-opportunities column on it.
A monthly feature at Co-Optimus.com, your prime source for co-op gaming.
Yes.
Awesome. And that'll be up then.
Yeah, I'm going to try to do it for next month, but it really depends on how much time I have to play. It might get pushed to the month after.
Man, what am I gonna do to get you that 72 hours straight in playtime?
Yeah, it really depends on, real life stuff and
Ugh.
how that all shakes out.
What, people have schedules and
'Cause,
things?
I probably want to make sure I see at least most of what the expansion has to offer before I make a full call on it.
Yeah, no, I mean, especially for something like MMOs where there's so much added to it. Awesome. Well, cool. So I will look forward to reading that, because I always look forward to hearing more about different MMOs that are out there, even if I don't always have the time to do so. And thank you, Mike, and thank you, Tally, for giving us a tour of the Path of Fire, the newest expansion to Guild Wars 2, available at a retailer nearest you.
Indeed, it is.
Called the World Wide Web. Just, I mean, go to ArenaNet, right? I'm sure they'll sell it to you there.
They do. That is, in fact, where I bought it.
Just hop in, be like, give me this game for free. And they'll be like, create an account. You'll say, okay, here's my account. And they say, here's the game. You want that expansion? Pay me. How much is the expansion?
Well,
$30 is the baseline entry.
Yeah, and if you want to get both expansions, they let you buy both of them at once for $50.
There you go. That's pretty nice.
They also have a 64-bit client.
Ah,
That is of interest.
probably.
It is 2017. I would hope they have that available.
Yeah.
It's
All right.
not as new as you would think. Not as old as you would think.
Thanks again, and tune in next week. I'm not sure yet what we'll have streaming for next Monday. We'll have to kind of take a look at a few things. Total War Warhammer 2 is coming out on Thursday, so that's always a possibility, but I don't know. There's a lot of stuff coming out, so check out our Twitter. I'll probably put something up there at some point once we figure it out. Anyways, thanks again. Have a great week.
Goodbye.
Bye.